All right, here we are again with some more tips, real estate tips from Team Ruggles, Atlanta Communities, Cartersville, Georgia. That's where we are stationed out of. All right. If you are watching this, I do have a YouTube channel that will have other real estate tips on it that you can go to. It'll be my real estate tips playlist. You can reach that at youtube.com at Eric Ruggles. I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers, so I appreciate any type of support you can give me. I really do. All right, so that's Team Ruggles out of Atlanta Communities, selling or serving Bartow, Floyd, and Gordon counties. Our office, that's in Georgia. Our office number is 770-240-2000. It'll give you a directory, and you can reach either myself, Eric Ruggles, or my wife, Kim Ruggles. All right. So we've been talking about problems or complications in contracts. This one today is about contingencies. What's a contingency? It means A has to happen before B can happen. All right. What does that mean? That means that this certain thing, like financing your or selling your home, first has to happen before I can be approved for the loan and get the loan to buy another house. All right. So that's a contingency. One thing has to happen before the other can happen. All right. So what are types of things and solutions with those? All right. Home sale. And this is the example that I was giving. A buyer's purchase depends on selling their current home, which can drag out or fail. So, for example, a buyer's home doesn't sell for months. All right. So they come to you, they say, hey, we love your house. Here's an offer, but we have to sell our house first before we can get your house. Okay. So the main thing you want to do is you're going to add a kick-out clause, basically. And you can set a time limit for that. Okay, that's fine. We'll give you so many days in order to get your house under contract, or this is going under a kick-out clause. And that can be an addendum, all right? And what does that mean with the kick-out clause? Okay, so with a kick-out clause, that means after that time's up, or they can do it right away, they can continue to keep the person that is selling the home that the buyer's trying to get can keep their house on market, all right, for other offers. And if another offer comes in, the first buyer, all right, they have the rights, but settled into the contract with good communication, they only have a certain amount of time after another offer comes in to provide the loan. The loan's going to go through to provide financing, all right, to provide that they are going to have the financing to get the home. So let's say it's maybe 3 days. So then they would have 3 days to prove that, or they lose the opportunity to buy the house and the second buyer comes in and that offer can be accepted. Okay. So that's a kick out clause. That's setting the time limits with it. And it's a pretty good strategy because you don't want to leave your house off market for that long. Okay. So financing issue, buyer cannot secure financing approval. Example, buyer pre-qualified but denied mortgage mid-contract. So you can require a loan pre-approval before offer. And right now, that's standard. You need a pre-approval anyways before you can even put an offer on a house. All right? Because it's pretty much a requirement now. I mean, it might be a silent requirement. It might not be a written requirement, but you're going to need pre-approval. All right? So limit contingency period. Again, set time limits on it. Cancellation allowed only with proof of denial. So if they're denied the loan or financing, then it can be terminated. Or you can get an addendum to try and lengthen the time to do some things that they might be approved. All right? But I wouldn't suggest that. Get your house back on market and get a buyer that can possibly buy your house. All right. So appraisal contingency. This is a good one that happens sometimes, all right? But if it does happen, we have options, and that is property appraises below purchase price. An example, purchase price is $300,000, but the appraisal comes back at $275,000. All right, so you can negotiate price reduction. So that means that the seller can say, hey, I'll drop to $275,000. All right, and then it is appraised for that. The sale can go through. Okay. However, you can split the difference. The buyer covers shortfall in cash or add appraisal gap. Okay. You can add the appraisal gap. That's pretty smart. But sometimes the buyer is going to have to cover that shortfall, and that's just not a good thing. But it happens. That can be negotiated in the contract, or you can split the difference. I mean, that's negotiating the fact that right here, you're willing to buy the house and you're willing to sell the house. Okay, so those are things that you can do in order to close that gap. All right. Inspection. We kind of went over this with our last one in more depth, but basically this is it. If the buyer comes back and demands all these things, and we talked about it, you know, listen, buyer, you want the house, don't nitpick the little things. Maybe the big things that are going to cost you a lot of money, yes, okay? Seller, all right? If there is just a few nitpick things, just fix them. It doesn't cost you much, all right? Painting the door frames, painting a room, it's not going to cost you that much. Get it done so the contract can go through. However, if they have so many and it's just ridiculous, you can set a limit, all right, on the amount of repairs that can be done. You can set a limit on what you would repair. In the contract, you would say, if the inspection comes back and there needs roof repair or HVAC repair, those will be done by the seller and nothing else. All right, so you can put something like that in there, and other things that's going to limit the repairs that I do in a contract. You can offer repair credits. All right, so at closing, maybe you cover a certain amount of closing costs that offsets the cost of repairs. All right, or the buyer can get some quotes, get the quote, put it in there, and the seller, after the transaction's made, the seller pays, or during the transaction, the seller would pay the buyer that much money in order to get it fixed, okay? But you can set a repair cap too, all right? Seller can say, I'm only paying about $3,000, $2,500 in repairs, and that's it, all right? Those are some things to get around that. Title contingency. This is the big one. If there is a lien on a property, the seller needs to take care of it, okay? You need to require in the contract communication saying any liens on the property, seller must take care of those liens in order for the sale to go through. They have so much time to do so, all right? Usually before closing, okay? They need to show proof that it's been taken care of. You can always, you're going to have to anyways, purchase title insurance. That's going to protect you as a buyer, all right, if there is something that comes up later with the title. All right, allow extensions if lien clearance is in process. If it's in process and it looks like it's going to go through, you can have an addendum to extend the closing time in order for it to get done and make the sale. All right. So, too many contingencies. All right, I have a financing contingency. I have an appraisal contingency. I have a home sale contingency. All right, the buyer wants all these multiple contingencies, okay? What can we do? You can set a time limit on the contingencies, okay? You can have this contingency, but you can only have it for so long, and then it's done, all right? Seller can counter with shorter timelines, that is, and use as is for the inspection. If you don't want to do any type of repairs, if it's stated in the contract, it's sold as is, you're letting the buyer, or you're informing the buyer that, hey, I'm selling it to you as is. There's not going to be any repairs made by me, the seller. Okay, so that's something that you can do, and we've had that a couple of times, and it's been okay. All right, so key strategies. Contingencies protect but can paralyze deals if overused. All right, sometimes they stop a sale from happening, which you could have had another sale. So your best practice is have reasonable timelines for the contingency, clear expectations in the contract of those timelines and what happens if those timelines aren't met. Fallback clauses, the kickouts, for example, all right, or credits at closing to cover cost of a repair so that neither one's really coming out of pocket. It's just done through the transaction. All right, so those are some things that you can do, and I hope these tips have helped you. Again, we're Team Ruggles out of Georgia. The counties we serve: Bartow, Floyd, and Gordon. All right, we're with Atlanta Communities in Cartersville, Georgia. That's our broker, and 770-240-2000 is our number again. And again, I can't stress enough. You want more tips like this? I have done numerous presentations with certain things that happen during real estate transactions. You can go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Eric Ruggles, and you can click on that playlist for real estate, because I have several playlists in there. But it'll be the playlist for real estate, and it can help you out if you have questions about certain topics in real estate. So, trying to get 1,000 subscribers. I really do appreciate any help I can get. Thank you for your time, and I'll be back with some more tips on my next one.